Hi guys. I'm so sad that I can't be with you in person. Hopefully you guys are doing well with the videos. I know it's probably hard to not have a teacher in there to ask questions or guide you through in person, but I'm so proud of you for paying attention and doing well, even with the times that we're in, and just making the most of it. So this video is basically going to be a review video over chapter 2. So I'm going to put a few questions on the board here for you to do. And if you want to volunteer someone in the class maybe to pause the video and let everybody get a chance to work the problems out and then play the video to check answers, that would be a great idea. Let's see, I'm assuming that we've got Braden Powell just ready to go here, right? I bet you're jumping up ready to volunteer and do this video, aren't you? Okay, so I'm just gonna start with our first lesson from chapter 2, and we'll work our way through to the most recent stuff. We are not going to go over chapter 2, lesson 7, because this is something that you will learn in the future in a different math class. And so rather than just going over that, I'm gonna stop there and let you guys test over what we've learned so far. Okay. So the first thing we're gonna take a look at is ordering integers from lowest, let's see, from least to greatest. Okay, so I'm going to give you a list of numbers, and in this list we've got -20, 0, 5, 15, and -17. I'd like you to get a piece of paper out and write this down so that you can follow along on a piece of paper as you review for your test tomorrow, okay? So go ahead and list those numbers out from least to greatest. You can pause the video while everyone's working and then play it. Okay, so let's take a look at what you have. The smallest number here is -20, so least to greatest meaning smallest to biggest, right? Next would be -17, and then 0, 5, and then 15. That would be your answer from least to greatest. Okay, next question. We are going to do a few absolute value questions. And so this was one that when we did our test, there were some of you that were a little confused over it. So I'm just going to go over that with you here so that if you see this on your test, you'll feel like you have at least gone over it with me in class, okay? So I've got an absolute value of 3 minus an absolute value of -12. I'd also like you to work these out. So we're going to talk about all these different problems. So there's 3 here. Okay, so you can pause the video and work these 3 problems out. All right here, let's take a look at what our absolute value is. So notice that my lines are around this -12, which means the only thing that's becoming positive is 12. I'm keeping everything else the same, okay? So that means when I work this out, I'm going to do 3 minus +12 rather than a -12. And when I subtract that, remember the rules for subtracting is I have to add the opposite. And so I can use what we call the two-stroke rule or two-stroke method to do that. And this becomes -9 as my answer. Okay, next one. I've got an absolute value of 7 minus 12, which means whatever I work out inside the absolute value will become a positive. So you had a question over this on your quiz that says, why would this answer be a negative, right? And some of you guys explained because of the absolute value, and you're right. So whatever is inside the absolute value will become, sorry, I think, did I say negative? Should be positive, right? Why is my answer positive? So whatever's inside my absolute value should be positive. So this would be 7 minus 12. And when I subtract that, my answer is negative 5. But because that is going to be an absolute value, my answer is actually positive 5. So this answer would be positive 5 here. Okay, then we have a third example. We've got 5 in absolute value and negative 6 in absolute value. So when I bring that as the number of what the value is of that number in absolute value, well, it's 5 and positive 6. So I would add those together. 5 plus positive 6 is 11. So notice whatever's within the absolute value becomes positive, then you just work that out as a positive number. If you have a number that's not in the absolute value, then it stays the same. So if this were negative 3, this would still just be negative 3. Okay, just wanted to clarify that with you. Okay, so the answers, I guess you see, is negative 9, 5, and 11. Hopefully you got those. Now let's do some addition with integers. So I'm going to put a few problems up here, and you guys can work them out. Okay. Well, and there's some subtraction problems. So you can pause the video and work these 5 problems out. And let's go over them. So 35 plus negative 9. You could really look at this also as 35 minus 9. Remember, when you're adding a negative and the number in front is bigger, you can look at it as just subtraction too. And so this would be 26 as your answer. Next one. I've got 3 numbers. So remember, my little trick is to combine my numbers that have the same sign first and then work out the rest. So I'm going to leave my 5 there and I'm going to combine this, and I've got negative 18. So the rule when I'm adding numbers with negatives is to subtract and keep the sign from the bigger number. So 18 is bigger. I'm going to keep that as a negative, and my answer is 13 when I subtract 18 and 5. Okay, this one here, I'm going to add my positives because those are the same sign. So I've got 105 plus negative 19. So when I subtract this, I get 84 as my answer. Okay, next one. It's a subtraction problem. So the rule is to add the opposite. And so remember that I'm changing the number that's being subtracted to the opposite. So if it's positive 68, it becomes a negative 68. Don't put weird stuff in front of the other numbers, right? You're changing the problem completely. So talk through in your head, adding the opposite. Okay, so when I add the opposite, now I have 2 different signs here. I subtract, and I get 16 as my answer. And because 68 is greater, my answer is going to be the same sign as what 68 is, which is negative. Over here, I am going to add the opposite. And so I have negative 66 plus negative 12. When I add those together, I get 78, negative 78. All right, how did you guys do? Okay, next set of problems. We're going to look at multiplication and division. So you can write these out. 8 times negative 24, 4 times 4 times negative 12. 210 divided by negative 10. I'm going to have to write this on here. Divided by negative 10. And then our last one is negative 5x times negative 2 times 3x. Okay. So you can pause the video and work this out. Okay, so if you need to work these out on the side, please do. I'm going to do the same. 24 times 8. Just going to work it out. 4 times 8 is 32. 8 times 2 is 16. 16 plus 3 is 9. 192. So one negative here, meaning my answer is negative 192. Okay, next one. 4 times 4 is 16. Then I have 16 times negative 12. So I'm going to work this out. This is 192 also. Interesting. I get another 192. Negative 192 also here. Okay. Then I've got 210 divided by negative 10. 210 divided by 10, what would that be? 10 goes into 21 twice with a 1 remainder. Bring that 0 down. That comes down, so that would be 21, right? So my answer is a positive or negative? Negative 21. And then here, I've got some x's. Now don't be confused. This isn't a multiplication sign. Those are my variables. That's why I don't put the multiplication symbol in anymore, because I don't want to mix it up with a letter. So negative 5 times 2 is 10, positive 10. Positive 10 times 3 is 30. And then I bring my x over, and that is 30x. This is kind of a trick question because it should be x squared, but we won't worry about that. Okay, so don't worry about this question. Let's look at this as addition. How about that instead? Okay, sorry about that. I think there was a typo there. So let's look at this again. Okay, because we haven't learned that yet. So that question would not work if you haven't learned it, but I can work it out because I know how to do it. Anyway, we're going to multiply this, and this is going to be b, okay? So 5x times negative 2 times 3b. The answer would be, same thing, you're going to multiply the numbers, and then you're going to bring your variables down, and so the answer would be 30xb, or 30bx. Okay, next set of questions. Let's take a look. Speaking of division, let's find the average of a set of numbers. So do you guys remember how to find the average of a set of numbers? You add up all the numbers and then divide it by the amount of numbers that there are. So here's a set that I'd like you to find the average of, and then find the mean of. What does that mean? What's the mean? Same thing as average, right? Mean's just another word to describe the average. So find the mean, or what we call the average, of this set here too. So work that out. You can pause the video and work that out. So I'm going to add my numbers together. 6 plus 5 plus 3 plus 4 plus 4 plus 5 plus 2 plus 3. There's a lot of numbers here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 divided by 8. So I'm going to add all my numbers. Now, the nice thing here is they're all positive. So I'm going to try to make groups of 10. 6 plus 4 is 10. 5 plus 5 is 10. And then 2 plus 3 is 5. So I have 25 so far. 25 plus 3 is 28. 28 plus 4. 28 plus 4 is 32. So I have 32 divided by 8. And then that answer, when I divide it, is 4. So my average is 4 there. All right, the mean of the set here. So I've got 100 plus negative 650 plus 200 plus 50 plus 800. I've got a set of big numbers, and I'm going to divide all that by 5. So let me add my positives first. So 100 plus 200 plus 800 is 1,100. So it's 1,150 divided by 5. So if I do long division over here, then this goes, 5 goes in 11 2 times, left with 15, that's 3, and then I have 0 left as a placeholder, so the answer is 230. My answer is 230. Did you guys get that? I hope so. Okay, a few more questions here. Let's take a look at graphing. So if I've got a graph, remember this is my x-axis right here. This is my y-axis, and this is what we call the origin. I'd like you to put these plots, these ordered pairs down on your graph. So we've got A, B, and C. On your test, you'll be given a grid, so don't worry about just drawing your graph out. You'll be given a grid, but in this case, I don't really have a grid feature here to do it with you. So A, let's say negative 1, 3. 1, 2, 3. That's right here. We're going to label that A. B is at negative 4, negative 5. So negative 4 on the X, and then negative 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the Y. That's going to be like right here. If you want to do this on graph paper, that might even be a better idea. And then we've got negative 2, 3. So negative 2 on the X, 1, 2, and then 3. So that's like right here. That's C right there. And so remember, we have our first coordinate, second coordinate, third coordinate, and fourth coordinate. If I ask you to name these, you could say in the second coordinate, we have A and C. And in the third coordinate, we have B as the ordered pair. So make sure you know where they belong too. Okay, last one that we're going to do together. I'd like you to turn this equation into a graph. So let me walk you through how we would do that. I want you to turn x plus y equals negative 4 into a graph. So what you would do is you would come up with two numbers that when you add them together equals negative 4. So I could start with, I could think through, well, negative 1 plus negative 3 equals negative 4, right? Or negative 2 plus negative 2 equals negative 4. Or 0 plus negative 4 equals negative 4. Or I could even say negative 4 and 0, right? So these are a bunch of numbers that I could add them up and it equals to negative 4. So if I go across, add these two, add these two, add these two, and add these two, it equals negative 4. So now, turning it into a graph, what's nice is I have come up with a set of ordered pairs right here from my table. So I'm going to turn these ordered pairs into my points on my graph, and I'm going to see what happens with it, okay? So now these are my ordered pairs. I've got negative 1, negative 3. 1, 2, 3. That's right here. And then I've got negative 2, negative 2. That's like right here. And then I've got 0, uh, -4. Oh, that's like right here. And then I've got -4, 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 0. So it's like right here. So this is my graph, and my graph, it should be a straight line because because the graph, should be straight. My drawing's kind of curved. So this point probably right here and that point right there. So that is my graph. Now I've turned this equation into a picture on my graph. You did that, I think, on your homework and on your study guide. So if you're not super familiar with that, just look it over, just check it one more time. It's, there will be a question like this on your test. Okay. All right. Finally, I just have a few short answer questions I'd like for you to answer. I want you to describe how to add integers in your own words. Okay. How do you add? What's the rule? What's the rule? How do you add integers? Write that out in your own words and then talk about it with your classmates. See if you guys can talk about it. And then I want you to describe how to subtract integers in your own words. So talk about that with your classmates. How do you subtract integers? What's the rule for that? And then I also would like for you to tell me, what is an integer? I've asked this a few times in class, and some of you guys have immediately known the answer, and some of you guys have been like, what are you talking about? I don't even know what word you're saying, right? But I've asked you a few times. So talk about that with one of your classmates. What is an integer? Okay. You can pause this video while you're talking about it. And I'm not going to give you the answers. I just want you to discuss that and then see if you guys can come up with a conclusion there. The last thing I'd like for you guys to do is, if there's time left in class, create addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division problems for your classmates to practice. So pair up, group up with another person. You can do groups of 2 or 3, get a piece of paper out, and create problems for each other to do. Now, make them within reason. Don't make crazy weird numbers, right? Maybe have the numbers be between 0 and 50, and you can put some negative numbers, you can put positive numbers. Also, if you are done with all that, do some average problems with your friends, okay? All right. Study, look over this stuff for your test, and good luck on Friday.